Wow. Hey everybody, as you can see, I've been crying. I've got makeup all over my face. I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about this, but it's a big deal for me right now. And I don't think I talk about this enough, especially when I know that there are quite a few of you who watch this who also struggle with this. I have been crying my head off all morning because of my lipedema. I'm not gonna cry now. Well, maybe I am. Goodness. I had an incident a couple of days. I haven't talked about it. I was home alone with the kids, and just as like a backup, part of the issue, the long-term issue of lipedema, is not even the weight. For me, a big problem with my lipedema is the immense pressure that is placed on my joints. And what I've noticed is that the more, oddly enough, the more weight that I lose on every other part of my body, it makes it harder on my legs. I also have this pain, by the way, in my arms because I have lipedema in my arms and in my legs. And I'm also quite sure I have some in my stomach. But my stomach has not been diagnosed, only my legs and my arms. It's been a few years since I've done the whole diagnosis. So I actually got my lipedema diagnosis in 2014, and it was shortly after I had Callum. And I went through this whole process of trying to figure out why my body was just suddenly so much different than literally every other person I knew that had gone through pregnancy and birth and all that. And for some reason, having babies just made my body explode. That was for me the beginning of my relationship, learning about this condition that I've had my whole life. And I've dealt with the implications of this physically, mentally, emotionally, my whole life. And then when we lived in London, I started having knee problems. And so I started seeing a physical therapist, and I saw an orthopedic surgeon and a physical therapist who specialized in the knees, who I started seeing privately to kind of figure out what to do next, because my knees were just like, my knees were popping in and out. It was a mess because of this lipedema, because of the immense stress on my joints that I was going to need to strengthen all of the muscles that hold that knee in place. So bike riding, which is why I ride my bike a lot, heavy weightlifting on my knees, just anything to strengthen the muscles around my knee. I've noticed even in recent months with like a lot of bike riding, a lot of like, Roman and I still do Jamando, so even with a lot of like, you know, putting body weight on my knee and doing a lot of exercises on my knees, they're not really doing what they did a couple of years ago in terms of like ways to keep my knee healthy. And so I had an incident the other night where I was putting the kids to bed, and I was sitting on the floor with them, and I got up. I put pressure on my knee and I stood up, and I heard this crunch. And it was a little bit of a different sound than I've heard previously, where you hear a very audible pop. And I know, okay, my knees popped. But usually, sorry, it's gonna be maybe too TMI. If you're uncomfortable with medical stuff, joints, knees, bones, maybe tune out. But usually I could kind of like squeeze my knee, hold it back together, and pop it back into place. It's painful, but once it's back in, it's fine. So the other night when I was with the kids, Roman was out of town, I stood up and my knee made this very audible crunch pop sound, and my knee was popped out of place. And I had 3 children that were needing to get to bed, 3 children that were like, "Are you okay, Mom?" And I didn't know what to do. I was internally panicking. So I finished brushing teeth and then got all 3 of them to bed. Callum, bless his heart, was like getting out of bed a lot. "Mom, are you okay? You sure you're okay? Do you need me?" I said, no, go to bed. It's okay. He's wonderful, by the way. Callum, I think of all 3 of the kids, is the one that really, he knows about my lipedema. I mean, all the kids do, but Callum really, he feels very protective of his mama. And for better, for worse, he was just like, "Mom, are you okay?" and was asking how he could help. And I put him back to bed. And once he was asleep, I came into the living room and sat down, and I put a washcloth in my mouth, and I did what I could do to pop my knee back into place. And it wasn't going back. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm really gonna like hurt myself here. By the way, don't do this. This is not a suggestion on what to do. But I started thinking, okay, I've got 3 kids at home, Roman's out of town. This is my right knee, so if I drive myself to the hospital, I don't know how I can drive at this point because I'm in such excruciating pain from the knee all the way down to my ankle. And I was like, I guess I need to go knock on the neighbor's door and have them at least sit with the kids, and I'll, I guess, call an ambulance and go. That was very scary. As I'm starting to mentally prepare, I'm like, just give it one more try. So I sit back on the sofa, put the washcloth in my mouth, and I got my knee into where it needed to be and was almost instantly relieved of the pain. So I thought, okay, I'm okay. I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. But it was scary up until that point. And the whole getting the kids to bed, I was just terrified, thinking of what am I gonna do? I realized that I've been crying way more than ever when it comes to how I feel about myself. And it's so hard because I feel like such a liar to my children because I hate my body. I'm gonna have to get surgery to remove the lipedema, and that's not something that I say with like excitement. There's a lot of fear in that because I already don't have a strong trust of doctors. So here I am having to trust that doctors know this condition well enough to be able to give me my life with my kids. I don't like the idea of being put under. I don't like the idea of change in general, but I know wholeheartedly that if I don't get this handled, I will lose my knees. I could end up in a wheelchair, maybe both. That is just not the life I want to live at 36. You know, I sit back and I think about how much lipedema has taken from me. And I think back to like all the insecurities in my life, you know, even as a child, declining birthday party invitations as a child that happened to be at somebody's pool because I knew my legs were bigger and I didn't want my classmates to see me in a bathing suit. I was a child. Wearing shorts is just non-existent. So the constant discomfort that I've become immune to in order to protect other people's eyes from seeing my legs. Just let that sit for a second. I'm in so much pain all the time. Like even holding my arms up to do my hair, the amount of pain that just radiates through my arms, walking, running and chasing after the kids. It is unbearable at this point how much pain I have learned how to live with, how much pain I am hiding from my children. And so I just sort of broke down and I lost it because I want to live. I don't want just my life back. I want to finally live pain-free. And I think about the number of meals and get-togethers and family events where I am uncomfortable at the table and I'm picking at my food because I know that I'm gonna feel the swelling and feel the pain that comes at the end of the day from eating bread or a slice of cake, or like I know what's coming later. I know that that makes it all worse. So just don't do it, you know? And I have abstained from the little things that make life enjoyable because of this horrific disease that has no cure. And I know that there are far worse things to suffer from, which is why I keep a lot of this to myself. Because I have shame for even feeling sad about the state of my body. You know, Roman and I do Jamando, and I am so physically fit that like I do the exercises even better than he does because I'm so strong and I'm so physically fit. But there always comes like certain exercises where I have to like lift my legs or put all my weight on my arms, and that is always like this subtle reminder, like as strong as you think you are, you think you're gonna beat this with diet and exercise, you can't. And here's that pain to remind you. I just think about how much lipedema has taken from me and how much I have allowed it to take from me. And even though I know that, you know, I can logically pinpoint the issue, that I know that there are tons of people with lipedema that wear shorts, but I will not be one of them. Like, I just can't get over that. I don't think I can wait until Germany decides to finally come around and consider lipedema an actual illness. I mean, people know that it is, but in terms of funding, in terms of insurance covering it, I don't think I can wait until that before I start seeking some sort of treatment. Because I just, I want to finally be able to live. I want to know what it's like to chase after my kids without pain, or play with them on the beach without fear and worry. I want to live a long, healthy life. I want the inside of me and what I know I am as a person, I want that to match the outside. I want the outside to match that. Roman actually, he has home office today, and we just spent a long time talking about it. And like I said, a lot of time crying from both of us. And he's very supportive. It's a lot on his plate because as of right now, lipedema surgeries are not covered by insurance. So everything would be out of pocket. It would be, I don't know, around the ballpark of $20,000 or 20,000 euros once everything is all said and done. It's not all 20,000 at once, but it's a huge financial burden, and I feel so guilty. And I feel so ashamed. because I desperately need the help. But I also feel like such a monster requiring this in order to get better. And putting that burden on Roman. I'm talking about lipedema.
Not easy.
No. It's not easy for you either.
No.
What's in your head about it? As my spouse.
You're... What is eingeschränkt in English?
Limited?
Limited, yes. You're limited in what you can do, and I guess this is... As a young mom, probably one of the most annoying things, beside the pain, that you cannot play with your children or run as fast with your nieces. I wish there was stuff that I could do, but beside moral support, there's not much I can do.
It is really frustrating because when all this was starting, like, I remember thinking that, like, Germany was really cutting edge with, I mean, like, if everyone knew this, everyone who had lipedema knew that, like, Germany was groundbreaking with the doctors and the research and all the funding that was coming towards lipedema research. Like, if you wanted a surgery in the early days, you came here. It was all private, but you came to this country to get surgery. There weren't doctors in the US doing it or doctors in the UK. Everybody was coming here. But it's just so frustrating that, like, it's still not covered. What else can be done other than, like, maybe this is what needs to be done, that just women like me just walk around pantsless in front of the Bundestag and Reichstag.
Yeah.
You know, like, we'll just walk around pantsless and just, like, if you don't like what you see, then help us get it corrected. You know, like, it's just, it's insane to me. I think it's very difficult for Roman to talk about this sort of thing on camera. I think it's hard for him to really understand in general. He doesn't, obviously. He's not living it, but he does see the pain, and he sees how much I try to mask. And I think that's the thing, is that I just mask it. I try to pretend that it doesn't exist, and I try to just go about my daily life, and I do what I can do. But he sees that, and he's my partner, and he sees how hard it's been. Well, because he's really been with me through all of it, you know, the pregnancies and births, and he's been in doctor's appointments where they've, like, blamed my nutrition and my poor diet for weight gain in the pregnancy. And you know, he's been in that with me, and he knows that it's been a bunch of bullshit. He knows that it's been wrong of doctors to treat me that way, and he's seen firsthand what nobody else sees. I don't know how we're going to pay for this. Roman has never told me no. And I want to make that very clear, that any of the pushback has come from me. He's never told me no. I know that it's not something he wants to spend money on, especially as we're trying to, like, I don't know, purchase a home. Because it will kind of come down to things like that, where it's like, okay, I get my surgery this year. That's 20,000 euros that could go to a down payment on a house, that sort of thing. The financial burden, even though he and I are very much so a team, the financial burden does lie on his shoulders as the main income in our family, the only income in our family. I don't envy that for him, and I just don't know what else to do at this point. Oh my gosh, I'm getting such a bad headache. Okay, well, I'm going to end this because I don't want to talk about lipedema anymore for the day. I need to go pick up my kids and put on a happy face. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. I'm sorry that this is what you get today. But I think it's important to not just be honest with you all, but to be honest with myself and realize that this has been very, very, very challenging, and it is continuing to progress in a way that is making my daily life exceedingly painful and more difficult, and I'm just not ready to give up yet. I'm not ready to give up on my life. Okay, thank you all for listening. I love you. See you tomorrow.